You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, and you're not. I've got to start by recapping the Wizards 76ers game. An absolute blowout. I'm not going to spend too much time on the game itself. It was an absolute rout. Every Washington Wizard not named Bradley Beal no-showed. As great as Beal is, and he is a great player, he can't beat this Sixers team by himself. No Washington Wizard, with the exception of Beal, scored a dozen points. Westbrook had 10. Hachimura had 11. Gafford had 11. Ish Smith had 10. The Sixers never didn't have a double-digit lead in the second half of this game. They were up by 14 at the half, and that was all she wrote. Joel Embiid did Joel Embiid things. Ben Simmons nearly had a triple-double. He had 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists. That's what I said he needed to do if the Sixers were going to win this game. I give him credit. Tobias Harris had 19 points. Off the bench, Furkan Korkmaz had 13 points, Dwight Howard had 11 rebounds, and Tyrese Maxey had 10 points. It was an incredibly dominant performance by the Sixers. But the most, shall we say, exciting thing, and I don't mean exciting in a good way, happened because of a fan. Russell Westbrook hurt his ankle in the fourth quarter, and he was walking back to the locker room. As he was walking back to the locker room, a 76ers fan poured popcorn onto him. Maybe Westbrook wasn't that hurt because it took like 7 people to hold him back and prevent him from doing his best Ron Artest impression. Now, the response towards that fan has been swift and decisive. He was a season ticket holder. I say was because those privileges were revoked. He has been given a lifetime ban from the Wells Fargo Center. So, just to be clear, if this guy, and we don't know his name, wants to go to a Philadelphia Flyers game, he'll have to do it when the Flyers are on the road. I give the Sixers credit for acting so quickly on this. It's the right thing to do. You can't throw popcorn on someone, okay? That's just a classless move from, let's be honest, classless fans. Philly fans are classless. They have been for years. And they'll always be classless. You want to tell me that it was popcorn, it wasn't battery acid or something like that? That's not the point. That's still assault. At the Islanders game yesterday, if I wanted to throw some popcorn at a Penguins fan, that Penguins fan would have the right to go to security and say, this guy just assaulted me. He needs to be kicked out now. Now imagine the stupidity that it takes for someone to throw popcorn at Russell Westbrook. Or any player for that matter. It's never acceptable to do it, but you're doing it at a time where we're just getting fans back into arenas. Don't you understand that one bad apple can spoil a bunch? I understand that this has nothing to do with the coronavirus, but it would be very easy for the 76ers to say, hey, look, we played all our games without fans this year, or a sizable percentage of them without fans. I don't know exactly what the Sixers did. If you guys continue to behave inappropriately, we'll try this again next year. I mean, I don't blame Russell Westbrook 1 second for getting upset. Blame him for his performance all you want. The guy played like garbage, because of course he did. But, yeah, if someone was to throw popcorn on me, yeah, I'd want to kill that guy. Don't get on Westbrook for a second for what he did. Get on him for his play on the court, not for almost doing his best Steven Jackson impersonation. At the end of the day, and the fact that I need to explain this is incredible. These players aren't robots. They're not pieces of property. They're human beings. And you need to treat your fellow man with some respect. You want to boo him? Fine. You want to swear at him? Fine. You want to shout racial slurs? No. That's inexcusable. That's never okay. That's the limit. Screaming at him that he sucks, dropping an F-bomb, that's okay. I can live with that. Racial slurs and physical assault? No. Never okay. I mean, it's worth noting that Westbrook has a history of bad fan encounters. We all remember the clip of Westbrook stumbling into the stands and the Sixers fan flips him the double bird. And Westbrook gets this look like, what's his problem? It's kind of funny in a weird way, just because Westbrook's reaction is really comical. I mean, I didn't have too much of a problem with what that fan did. But yeah, I understand how it would tick off Westbrook. He also supposedly received racial taunts from a fan in Utah when he was playing the Jazz. Trae Young got some heat from Knicks fans. Kyrie Irving said that he wants Friday night to be focused solely on basketball. No racism, nothing. The fact that he needed to single that out is sickening. I mean, here's the thing. In basketball, you can get closer to the players than in any other sport. So they can hear what you say. You say enough stuff, or do something stupid, yeah, you're going to get a reaction. You're not untouchable. These players aren't robots. They're not put out there solely for your amusement. They can hear you. They have feelings. It's okay if you want to boo. If all of Madison Square Garden yesterday wanted to chant, Trae Young sucks, that's okay, but there is a limit. Under no circumstances can you say racial slurs, and under no circumstances can you assault these players. You can't pour anything on them. Popcorn, beer, soda, candy, whatever. Philadelphia fans. The most classless fans in all of sports. Speaking of Hawks-Knicks, Knicks fans did go home happy yesterday, which made me unhappy. No. I was not unhappy yesterday. The smile that was on my face needed to be surgically removed. Look, in all seriousness, this was a really impressive win for the Knicks. The Hawks were up by as much as 15. They were up by 13 at the half. You could hear all the New York sports talk people gearing up their rants on Julius Randle. At the half, Randle was 0 for 6 from the field. He hit just 2 free throws. That was it. This guy's the best player on the Knicks. For him to have that performance is inexcusable. But then he turned it on. Finished with a double-double, 15 points and 12 rebounds. Derrick Rose had 26 points. He's been the best player on the Knicks in this series. I don't know why Tom Thibodeau just doesn't start him. Because Elfrid Payton, as of recently, hasn't gotten a ton of minutes. He shouldn't be getting a ton of minutes. That's the right thing. But then why are you giving him the start? Game 3, I want Derrick Rose to start. Does it really matter? At the end of the day, the answer is no. But it's kind of funny. If you didn't watch the Knicks at all this year, and you were watching them for the first time because it's playoff basketball, you'd be very confused as to why Derrick Rose is coming off the bench. You'd think that he's by far and away their best player. Reggie Bullock, who I don't like, had a good game. He had 15 points, give him credit. RJ Barrett had a little bit of an off night, but he still had 13 points in 25 minutes. I'll take it. Alec Burks had 11 points and 8 rebounds. The bench yesterday for the Knicks outscored the starters. And the X factor for that was Obi Toppin. He scored 8 points in 11 minutes. He had the rim-rattling alley-oop early in the fourth quarter. The crowd was chanting his name. That had to make him feel really good. Here's a guy who was the 8th overall pick in the draft, only played 11 minutes per game, really didn't get a big chance to strut his stuff. I know some people who are already writing him off as a bust. That performance has to give you a lot of confidence in him. Toppin deserves a bigger role next year. There's no question about that. So look, really impressive win for the Knicks. They stepped up in the second half. They absolutely needed to. Give them credit. They ended up holding the Hawks to just 37% from the field and 27% from beyond the arc. The Knicks out-rebounded the Hawks 54-41. They were the more physical team. They needed to win that game. If they had lost, forget about it. The series is over. There's no way that they'd come back with 3 of the remaining 5 games set to be in Atlanta. They needed this win, and they got it. They got back to their identity in the second half. They clamped down defensively. In the second half, Trae Young only had 10 points. He only attempted 2 free throws. Maybe he's not the next great Knicks villain. Maybe the shushing that he did in Game 1 will just be an anecdote. Nothing big will come from it. Look, this was a really impressive win for the Knicks. They needed to win it, and they did. This is the first time that they've won a playoff game at MSG since 2013. This is shaping up to be a really fun series. Moving on now to Grizzlies Jazz. And your heart has to break for Ja Morant. He has the best game of his life, has 47 points. He actually set the record for most points scored in a single playoff game in Memphis Grizzlies history. But it didn't matter because his team forgot to play defense. And his bench no-showed. Now, the Jazz weren't playing much defense either. This was like the exact opposite of Hawks-Knicks. Hawks-Knicks, there was a lot of defense, not a lot of offense. Grizzlies-Jazz, a lot of offense, not a lot of defense. All 5 of the Grizzlies starters scored at least 11 points. The seminal reason that the Grizzlies lost this game was the dreadful performance by their bench. The whole bench. Desmond Bane, Grayson Allen, DeAnthony Melton, Xavier Tillman, and Tyus Jones combined for just 14 points. To put that into perspective, Jordan Clarkson had 16 points by himself yesterday. I mean, let's be honest, with Donovan Mitchell playing for the Jazz, the Grizzlies have no shot in this series. He played 25 minutes and was the high man for the Jazz. He had 25 points. Mike Conley had a double-double. Rudy Gobert had a double-double. Royce O'Neal had 14 points. If Royce O'Neal, a guy who only averaged 7 points per game this year in the regular season, is scoring 14 points, you're doing something wrong as a team defensively. This was an impressive win for the Jazz. They are by far and away the better team in this series. I feel sorry for you, Grizzlies fans. Your team gave you guys a sense of false hope. Now you're going to see them lose 4 straight. But now it's time to preview Bucks Heat. If the Bucks are going to win this game, I'd like their 3 best players to step up a little bit more. Not Giannis. Giannis is doing his thing. Okay? Love Giannis. Love watching him play. But let's be honest. Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday had bad games in Game 2. Middleton only attempted 5 field goals, and Jrue Holiday only had 11 points. Yes, the Bucks blew out the Heat, but they got big contributions from guys like Bryn Forbes, Pat Connaughton, and Bobby Portis. Do you really expect their bench to step up that much again? I don't. Middleton has shown that he's 100%. He's ready to go and he's ready to take over games. And Jrue Holiday needs to get back to what he did in Game 1. As for the Heat, it's all on Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. They have had dreadful games in this series. Butler has combined for just 27 points in these 2 games. Adebayo has combined for just 25. These are the 2 best players on the Heat. You're not going to win when your 2 best players in the first 2 games of a series combine for just 52 points. If those guys don't step up, the Heat are going to be run out of their own building. I don't see that happening, though. This game is at the American Airlines Arena. The Heat are on death ground right now. I do think that Butler and Adebayo will step up. They're too good not to. I'm going to go with the upset here. Give me the Heat. Moving on now to Suns-Lakers. If the Suns are going to win this game, Chris Paul needs to take on a bigger role. I know that he's dealing with a shoulder injury. And he's limited with what he can do. Okay, I get that. But this guy's the 2nd or 3rd best player on the Suns, depending on how you feel about DeAndre Ayton. There's no excuse for him to only have 13 points through the first 2 games of this series. Look, the Suns only lost by 7 on Tuesday. Chris Paul wasn't even in at crunch time. If Chris Paul plays like Chris Paul, the Suns may win that game. It may be unfair to focus so much on Paul. I know he's hurt. I know he's a game-time decision. The shoulder injury is real. But it's the truth. He needs to dominate if the Suns are going to win this game. As for the Lakers, I'd like for their bench to step up a little bit more. In Game 2, their bench combined for just 13 points. To put that in perspective, Cameron Payne had 19 points for the Suns. I mean, the Lakers won that game because Anthony Davis exercised his Game 1 demons. LeBron did LeBron things. Dennis Schroeder went off for 24 points. And Drummond had a double-double. I'd like the bench to step up a little bit more. I like Kyle Kuzma. I like Alex Caruso. And Marc Gasol is solid. So, They are capable of stepping up, they just need to do it. And I think they will. With a less than 100% Chris Paul, I don't see how the Suns win this game in LA. Give me the Lakers. Moving on now to Nuggets Trailblazers. If the Nuggets are going to win this game, I'd like their defense to step up a little bit more. In both of these games, the Trailblazers have shot about 47.5% from the field and 48% from beyond the arc. Once the Blazers are getting into their sets, they're moving the ball around, Lillard is doing Lillard things and McCollum is doing McCollum things, the Nuggets just don't have an answer for that. But if they can disrupt those actions, they're in good shape. The Blazers turned the ball over 21 times in Game 2. The Nuggets scored 22 points off those turnovers. That's the game right there. It's great that you were able to disrupt the Blazers, but you've got to be able to contest their shots. If the Nuggets don't step up their defense a little bit, I don't see how they win this game. As for the Blazers, they need someone other than Lillard and McCollum to step up. In Game 2, Lillard and McCollum combined for 63 of the Blazers' 109 points. I mean, Norman Powell was good, but where was Nurkic? Where was Rocco? Where was Melo? Where was Cantor? Etc., etc. Someone else needs to step up. As great as Lillard and McCollum are, and they have won playoff series by themselves before, they shouldn't be expected to do it all by themselves. That's unfair to them. The supporting cast needs to step up. All in all, this game is in Portland. I picked the Blazers to win this series. I think this is going to be a very close game. It wouldn't surprise me if the Nuggets won it. But because I picked the Blazers to win this series, I'll say that the Blazers win Game 3. In breaking news, and I just saw this goes back to what I opened the show with. Misbehavior of fans. A Knicks fan has just been banned from Madison Square Garden for spitting on Trae Young. I didn't notice this at the time, but now that I'm seeing the replay, yeah, he spit on Trae Young. That was intentional. That was from the second row. He almost ended up spitting on 50 Cent's girl. That wouldn't have ended well for you. Okay, that's worse than the popcorn. Because this guy actually made contact with Young with one of his bodily fluids in the time of COVID. I'd rather have popcorn dumped on me than get spit on. Even if we weren't in a pandemic. Okay, that is absolutely disgusting. I've seen it enough. This misbehavior by fans needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. Good job by the Garden in banning that fan. But now it's time to recap the 3 NHL games from yesterday. Yeah, you can tell what I'm starting with. Penguins Islanders! Yes, yes, yes! I can't believe it. The New York Islanders upset the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yeah, I know that I said they'd win yesterday. It doesn't make it any less stunning to me. You've got to realize something. The Penguins were the best team in the East Division. The Islanders were not playing great hockey down the stretch. I mean, I picked the Penguins in 6. It killed me to do it, but I was being unbiased. Having said that, though, I did say I'm pretty sure it was the last New York Islanders episode, that the Islanders had a better chance of beating the Penguins than any other team in the East. Didn't think for a minute that they'd actually win that series, but I thought they'd give the Penguins a scare. I thought the Bruins would destroy them. I still think they're going to destroy them. And I thought Tom Wilson would kill Matt Barzal. But you know what? Ilya Sorokin stepped up. The whole team really stepped up. You're down 2-1 in the series. You're switching goalies to a rookie, an unproven guy. Someone who did not play well in Game 1. Game 4 was a must-win game. The Islanders step up and win 4-1. Game 5, another must-win game. You don't want to fall down 3-2 in the series. Ilya Sorokin stands on his head and makes 48 saves. Tristan Jarry acts like an idiot. And Josh Bailey is the beneficiary. Game 6, with the entire building shaking. A star-studded crowd. Bill O'Reilly was there. Frankie Borelli was there. John Ledecky, Ed Westfall, Ralph Macchio, Aaron Asham. The Islanders just ran away with the game. I mean, just to be clear, they came back 3 times in this game. They were down 1-0, 2-1, and 3-2. Do you have any idea how hard that is to do in a playoff game? Forget coming back once. Forget coming back twice. 3 times! In the span of 3 minutes, the Islanders scored 3 goals. Brock Nelson and Ryan Pulock put that game away. Once the Islanders got out of the second period with a 5-3 lead, I had the sense that the Islanders were actually going to win this game. Sorokin made some really nice saves. The Islanders played classic Barry Trotz hockey. Sidney Crosby, in this whole series, only had 2 points. Same thing with Jake Gensel. The Islanders didn't play outstanding hockey in this series, but you know what? They stepped up when they needed to. That's impressive. You've got to realize something. Before Barry Trotz got here, the New York Islanders had only won 1 playoff series since 1993. Barry Trotz has been with the Islanders for 3 years. Every single year, the Islanders have won a playoff series. How's this for a stat? The last time the New York Islanders won a playoff series in 3 straight years was 1983 to 1985. 35 years! Barry Trotz is by far and away the second best coach in Islanders history. You know what? I'm going to say it now. Put something up in the rafters for him now. Right now. Because what this guy has done with this team is nothing short of incredible. The Islanders have won series that they weren't supposed to win. These 2 series against the Penguins in this 3-year stretch. They weren't supposed to win either one. In the bubble, did you really expect them to beat the Capitals? Did you expect them to beat the Flyers? This is insane. This is the best stretch of Islanders hockey since the dynasty. I couldn't believe it. I was high-fiving everyone. What a great way to close out the barn with at least one playoff series victory. I was getting a little teary-eyed. I'm not going to lie to you. I will say this about the Penguins, though. They've got some tough sledding ahead of them. This team is old. This team isn't getting any better. If anything, they're just getting worse. Malkin's 34. Crosby's 33. You have a goalie in Tristan Jarry who, sure, is great in the regular season, but in the playoffs he was dreadful. What do you do now? Do you blow things up? Is Mike Sullivan the right coach? I don't know. I mean, how much of this can you put on Sullivan? I mean, I'll say this. This is the first offseason that Brian Burke and Ron Hextall are running the show in Pittsburgh. They didn't hire Sullivan. They didn't bring in this core. It wouldn't surprise me if there were a lot of changes in Pittsburgh. I don't want to say definitively that they should do this, that, and the other. But the Penguins are going to be an interesting team to watch as this offseason gets underway. The Islanders series wasn't the only series that ended yesterday. The Lightning shut out the Panthers en route to advancing to the second round. Bad game by Spencer Knight. But the big guns for the Lightning stepped up like I said they had to do. Andrei Vasilevsky stood on his head and made 29 saves. I said that the Lightning would win this game. I was 100% right. Don't let their seeding fool you. This is a scary Lightning team. They have a ton of playoff experience. They're getting healthy at the right time. They're going to be a really tough team to beat. Moving on now to Golden Knights Wild. And we have a series. We have a Game 7. The power balance has shifted. Marc-Andre Fleury was standing on his head in this series. Now it's Cam Talbot. Talbot pitched a shutout yesterday. He made 23 saves. Both teams played really good defensive hockey, not very physical. Just very good in the neutral zone, very good at getting the puck out of their end. Then in the third period, Fleury just wilted. You had the sense that the Ryan Hartman goal would be enough, but Kevin Fiala added a power play goal for good measure, and Nick Bjugstad scored with under 5 minutes left to really ice the game. Look, tomorrow we're going to get a Game 7 in Vegas with a suddenly hot Cam Talbot and a suddenly cold Marc-Andre Fleury. That's going to be a must-watch game. The entire hockey world will be watching. It'll be very interesting to see how that game unfolds. You know that crowd's going to be rocking in Vegas. It's all about which goalie steps up. Does Fleury step up like he did earlier in the series, or does Talbot step up like he's been doing recently? That's all that game boils down to. Cam Talbot versus Marc-Andre Fleury. The skaters are irrelevant. But I'm not going to make a pick. I'll save that for tomorrow. I will make picks, though, for tonight's two games. I'll start with Canadiens Maple Leafs, a rivalry series that really hasn't been much of a competition. The Maple Leafs have outplayed the Canadiens by a sizable margin in this series. If the Habs are going to win this game, their big guns need to step up. I'm looking at guys like Tyler Toffoli, Jeff Petrie, Tomas Tatar, Josh Anderson, Philippe Danault, and Cole Caulfield, the hotshot rookie, to put this team on their backs and win it for them. The Canadiens in this series have only scored 4 goals. In Game 2, the Leafs scored 5 goals. The big guns on the team, the best players on the team, need to step up now if they're going to save this series. It's just that simple. As for the Leafs, it rests on one guy's shoulders. Jack Campbell. My boy. The guy who's probably been the best goalie in these playoffs. He has shut down the Habs at every turn. He's made it so you need to think about, forget just starting the rest of these playoffs. Is he going to start next year? He's earned it, I'll tell you that. This game is solely on Jack Campbell. It's just that simple. I think he's going to rise to the occasion again. The Leafs will end the series here. Moving on now to Hurricanes Predators. If the Hurricanes are going to win, I want them to play a little more up-tempo. Push the issue a little bit more. Get aggressive. The game on Tuesday was a slow, methodical game. A lot of stoppages that actually favors the Predators. The Hurricanes somehow found a way to win that game. Give them credit. Watching that game unfold, I didn't think that the Hurricanes would win. But, hey, they did. Give them credit. I don't think they're going to win another grit and grind game, though. That really favors the Predators. The Hurricanes need to make this an up-tempo game. As for the Predators, it was nice that Yakov Trenin stepped up and scored 2 goals. But someone else needs to step up too. Roman Josi, Philip Forsberg, Cal Yarncroc, Mikael Granlund, Matthias Ekholm, guys like that. The reason the Predators lost Game 5 was because their big guns no-showed. If the big guns no-show again, forget about it. The Hurricanes will win. But the home team has won every game in this series. I think that trend is going to hold. You know that Smashville is going to be rocking. Give me the Predators. There will be a Game 7. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that Danny Napoleon was so ugly that when a fly ball was hit towards him, it'd curve away from him.